Coming up on show 603, Acrimoto delivers their first vehicles, some new Audi plugins for the US, and Lego goes electric. Well, those stories and many more coming up on today's podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to EV News Daily, your edition for Monday, 7th of October. My name is Martyn Lee. I've just been through everything that's happened in the last 24 hours and picked out the stories you need to know about to save you time. As always, thank you to those that help me make this show. That would be everyone who supports me on Patreon, and particularly thank you to my friends at myev.com. It is a website which was the brainchild of someone who couldn't work out why there wasn't a better way to connect buyers and sellers who wanted used EVs in and out of their life, and so he made the website. Check out myev.com if you're buying and selling used EVs in the USA. Right, we'll kick off with Acrimoto. In fairness, a brand and a car, sort of a car, I don't talk about too much on this podcast. Well, the first few Acrimoto FUVs have been delivered, and in case you thought I misspoke there, I meant to say SUV. It's not an SUV, it's anything but probably about a quarter of the size of an SUV. It is an FUV for fun utility vehicle. That's at least according to the manufacturers as well, delivering their first FUVs to customers and fleets. Go-Car Tours. Well, they're in San Francisco, and they just got their first load of them. There's 40 of them, and they've been delivered for Go-Car's guided tours. They're actually GPS guided tours, and it sounds like the perfect application for an FUV, says InsideEVs.com. With Go-Car's patented Go-Car network technology, users can explore the city by the bay on their own schedule and at their own pace. The Go-Car's mobile tour guide, which is a GPS guided tour, gives directions of where to go, cracks jokes, recommends restaurants, and tells legendary stories that bring San Francisco to life. So that is the first load of Acrimotos heading to San Francisco. There's also a bunch going to Florida as well, heading to the East Coast. And the first FUV rental franchise announced in the Florida Keys. 21 of them have gone there. What is an Acrimoto FUV? And like I say, I don't talk about these too much, but I've mentioned them a few times on the podcast over the months and the years that we've been doing this. Acrimoto FUV is all electric, obviously. It is a two-seater, but it's a tandem two-seater, a bit like the Renault Twizy. It's a three-wheeler, one wheel at the back, two wheels at the front. The driver at the front steers, so the two front wheels turn, but you have handlebars. So if you're used to riding a bike or a motorbike, you'll be fine, but you're sitting down. The sides are open, but it has a screen, has a windscreen wiper, has a roof, has a kind of roll cage affair to it, but your arms, you're very much open to the elements to the side. Can you get doors and make it more of an enclosed car-type experience? Yes. Can you take out the back seat and replace it with a big storage box for last-mile courier deliveries? Yes. I'm thinking getting your Friday night takeaway delivered with one of these. I can't, for the life of me, find the size of the battery very easily. There is a version of this with, like I say, the doors, and the more premium version of this, it's $19,900. So look, we're all friends. Let's call it $20,000 here. Now delivering to Oregon, California, Washington as well. They call it the Evergreen Edition. There's also a version of this for first responders, designed for emergency services and security and law enforcement and rescue crews. There's some videos online that Acrimoto have put online with their first few customers taking delivery, and people seem very pleased about getting hold of one of these, which is definitely an acquired taste. Let's be nice to them. If you want to get one, on their website, there is a pre-order button. And it's weird because the story today in the news, the videos are all about, hey, we're delivering them, and yet you go to their website and it's all about pre-ordering them. And then the very next thing you can do is there's an investor tab. And it's all about investor relations. And if you go to the FAQ and the frequently asked questions to have a look at what it's all about, and you scroll down to the one of the top questions, it's, can I invest in this company? And it's, yes, you can buy shares. So there's quite a lot of emphasis on fundraising on this website. It's not as much about the car and more about, hey, give us your money, help us keep going. Must be very hard to launch a company like this, and good luck to them, and good luck to, I think, over 100 people who work there making this this car, this glorified three-wheel motorcycle? Do you need plates? Yeah, I guess you need license plates on it. Do you need a helmet? Well, that is going to change jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Like I say, yes, it's open to the element. So maybe you do need a helmet in some areas. It's a funny looking thing, but I bet it's a load of laughs and a bag of fun. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to put it top as the number one news item on the podcast today, because good luck to Acrimoto delivering some cars, if they are indeed cars. All right, let's go from that to this, a car maker that's been making cars for a very long time, very established. Let's talk about Audi bringing some new plug-in hybrids to the US. And the CNET article today says that for some people, a plug-in hybrid car is a bit like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. And I sort of get that argument. And the argument they're making is people aren't ready to go full EV, so give them a plug-in hybrid with a 14.1 kilowatt hour battery. They'll experience electric power, and the next one will be a full electric. But that does somewhat compare buying an electric car to eating an elephant, which makes it seem like a big daunting thing. And actually, buying an electric car for many people is not a big daunting thing. There's nothing like eating an elephant. However, I guess for some people it is. Anyway, they are talking about the new Audi plugins. The A7, the A8 and the Q5. Now the A7 and the Q5 share the same powertrain, 2-litre engine and the battery pack. The larger A8, oh wow, what a car, has a bigger 3-litre engine and the same electric powertrain. The powertrains are 14.1 kilowatt hours, like I mentioned, located under the body. WLTP European test cycle give these 25 miles of electric range. Haven't got an EPA range on this yet, but take off 8 to 10% and you get somewhere near, I think, near what the EPA range is like when you do the conversion. All of those cars, by the way, are very, very lovely cars. A7, A8, Q5, any of them would look very nice in my driveway. Of course, I would like a full electric version of any one of those, please. I'll put a full link to the review in the show notes. It comes across very well in this CNET article. But in conclusion, they say that this is an excellent stopgap between gas and battery electric vehicles. And again, the whole article is based on the presumption, and whether you agree and accept the presumption and whether you agree with the entire premise of the article only makes sense if you agree with the premise that buying an EV is a real hassle. And if you do agree with that, then the article will make perfect sense to you. They say that it's good tax incentives, $6,700 of federal tax incentives for buying the plug-in hybrid version of these, because it's got a big battery, so you can lower your tax liability next tax year all the way round. And have a read of it. It's very interesting. On our recent, if you remember our recent survey on this podcast of what you want to hear, plenty of people did say, tell us about plug-in cars, but not at the exclusion of, full electric cars. That should be the priority. So there you go. There's your plug-in news. Let's talk about a full electric, this time a full electric truck, the Tesla semi-truck. PepsiCo is introducing 15 of them to its FRITO-LAY manufacturing site in California. They're introducing 15 Tesla semi-trucks to its sites as part of a broader plan to replace all of their diesel trucks with zero-emissions trucks. The rollout comes after the company ordered 100 of them in 2017 when we first heard about the semi-truck as part of the brand's mission to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. Coming hot on the heels of the story that I told you about recently with Anheuser-Busch ordering 40 of them, and one of the biggest customers awaiting delivery of the trucks as well. Pepsi's plan to be zero emission, or near zero emission, they say, includes solar panels on their buildings, battery storage, on-site charging as well. And the project will be complete by 2021. Yet another company wanting all electric trucks to deliver an ice-cold, refreshing Pepsi or whatever. What's Frito-Lay? Is that crisps? We don't have that. We don't have that brand here. I think when I've been on holiday to America, I think that's crisps, isn't it? Right. Potato chips. Let's talk about batteries and CATL, a big Chinese company, Contemporary Amperex Technology Limited, CATL, has gotten the go-ahead to build a German battery cell plant from the Minister of the Environment. The groundbreaking ceremony will be before the end of the year. And this is a really interesting story here from CATL and battery production in Germany. In July this summer, the groundbreaking ceremony was said to have taken place mid to late September. So we know, therefore, they are falling behind schedule. But the delay is worth it because production was meant to be in 2021, and that was going to be for an annual output of 14 gigawatt hours of batteries every single year, well and truly making it an official gigafactory. However, those original plans have changed really quickly as people realised we need a lot more batteries than we can get our hands on, and battery manufacturers, or cell manufacturers, have realised, hang on, there's a really, really big market here. So the company's Chinese headquarters were going to invest around 240 million on this battery plant. Now they're going to invest 1.8 billion euros, a factor of 7.5 increase. They've got two areas, 35 hectares each in Erfurt, 17 hectares for a supplier park as well. And I can't for the life of me find out what the new annual capacity becomes, but I bet you bottom dollar it's going to be a lot more than 14 gigawatt hours. A big, big, big battery, cell, and I'd probably cell and battery production plant in Germany to provide more cells to the EV industry. Now, recently I was asking about what you wanted to hear on the podcast, and you said electric bikes. And how about this, which kind of blurs the lines on Electrek? One of my favourite YouTube channels for years has been Micah Toll, an e-bike school. So when he started writing for Electrek, I was delighted. Two of my favourite things crashing together. Street-legal electric bicycle that is 2.5 kilowatts of power. Made by a company called LMX. It's a new e-bike. LMX is a European company. They're French, make very, very, very high-quality bikes. They've homologated a new version of their bike that has 250 kilowatts of peak power. Now, when you think about most e-bikes are, 250 watts? Maybe 500 if you're going to get 750 for a really powerful one. This is 2.5 kilowatts. It's got a 100-tooth rear sprocket for motorised drive, 147 pound-feet of torque on a bicycle. Well, it's sort of a bicycle because it's got pedals, it's got pedal assist, it's therefore a pedal bike. It's also limited, if you want, on the road to 28 miles an hour, so therefore it fits European legislation. 52-volt battery, 857 watt-hours battery, but it's also got a mirror, a wing mirror on one of the handlebars. It's also got a registration plate on the back, a bracket to put one as well, and that's because, if you want, this can fit in the same category as 50cc mopeds. And it's certainly got enough power. So whether you're taking it off-road, you're climbing up mountains, whether you're doing your commute, or whether you're using it as effectively a moped, a 50cc moped, it looks like it'll do all things. It's not going to be cheap. Currently on pre-order for about 5,000 euros or $5,500 US. So, yeah, put your hand in your pocket and look for a bit more change. Delivery in 2020. Production will be in France. And it is just a beast of a bike. I'll put the link to the review in the show notes. When does a pedal bike become a moped? And does it have to become one? Maybe it can be both things at once. Wow, that is so much power to put on what is effectively a bike frame with pedals, but also is homologated to be road legal to be a moped. I should say, by the way, in Switzerland and working on the rest of Europe. So, moving on to battery power in the air, and it's a real challenge. It's not an obvious one, this, but some super brains are working on it. There's an aviation startup called ZEROAVIA, and they just got a new £2.7 million or $3.3 million US grant from the government in the UK to develop electric propulsion technology with zero CO2 emissions in the air. They were founded in 2017 by Val Miftakov. I wonder if that's short for Valentino Miftakov. There's a good Russian name for you. He is the CEO, and he answers some questions to Clean Technica, and it's a great article, long read as well. But here is, I read through the whole article, then I flicked back to one of the really interesting bits, and he was talking about how much power an electric plane uses. I just presumed it would be from my position of ignorance, really, of not being an expert and an armchair reader of these kind of things, it would actually take a lot of power, which is why we're not all flying around in electric planes. But he says, actually, the plane test that they've done already on electric power was about 120 miles an hour speed at 1,500 feet in altitude. The indicated airspeed is normally a fraction of the true airspeed because air density becomes lower, which of course we know the higher up you get with altitude. Therefore, the airspeed is calibrated to sea level, pressure and density. So to travel at 110 miles an hour because the air is so much thinner, you consume just 80 to 90 kilowatts of power. Now, for comparison, that is a lot less, say, Clean Technica, than a similarly sized car. So a Tesla Model X, for instance, doing that kind of speed on the ground would consume well over 90 kilowatts to keep that speed up because of the air resistance. And yet, actually in the air, you can be a lot more efficient. Very, very interesting. Some basic components of some hydrogen fuel, electric propulsion stuff in here as well. Really interesting interview. If you want to go read that, I'm going to pop a link in the show notes for you so you can read more. Hydrogen, super interesting. Battery electric power for flight is super interesting. And how far will the flights go now and then in the future as well? And how far will this grant go? I mean, I wouldn't turn my nose down up at 3.3 million, but it doesn't go that far when you've got to spend some big money to develop new technology. What do you reckon? I'd love to hear from you. Hey, a very funny couple of stories to finish on today. Firstly, Lego has gone electric. That's right, you can now get a Lego Formula E car and a Lego Jaguar I-Pace car. As the Lopniks say, if you're a fan of British race cars and Danish injection-moulded building blocks, well, then you would be in luck. The Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy supports the Formula E series as well, and you can now build some Legos and put it on your desk, or if you do, maybe let the kids play with them, as Lego is probably intended. I know plenty of adults listening to this podcast like Legos as well and have them and build them and kind of sit and look at them if you want to. They're actually wider than other Lego cars in order to get more detail in them as well. There's a really long read on the website The Brothers Brick, if you're into it. The price is not set, but it's goes on sale January the 1st for lovers of electric vehicles in your life that want some Lego. And finally, how do you sum up why it's good that a Tesla Model 3 in Europe with the CCS plug can use not only the Tesla connectors on the superchargers with CCS, but also AC charging, but also any other CCS plug? Well, Bjorn Nieland, who has his YouTube channel, tried to find a way to describe it. And I'm not sure whether this is quite offensive or a brilliant way of describing it. So I will just play you the audio.
Which charging network can you access? And of course, again, there we have a very good advantage with Tesla, because Tesla has the supercharger network and Tesla can also use the Ionity network. So Tesla is almost like a bisexual, you have more to choose between. Yes.
One of the wonderful things about English being Bjorn's second language is that sometimes he just has to pick the words that he has in his head. Kind of interesting, right? You can pick and choose where you charge and kind of gives you more choice. Right, I think I better move on. Thank you very much for listening today. Why don't you answer this week's brand new question of the week set by myv.com. What segment of vehicles do you think is the most important to electrify? And if you are thinking about what your answer might be on tomorrow's podcast, well, got some ideas actually. California would like to chip in with an answer to this question. What segment of vehicles is most important to electrify? Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. Leave a comment on socials. There are 254 patrons of the podcast, and you make this show happen. If you want to get any of the previous 602 shows, they're online for free, where you get your podcasts from. I'd love you to hit subscribe so you get the new shows before anybody else, first and free and automatically straight onto your device or however you listen. If you hit subscribe, come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow, and remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.